How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Hope everyone is doing well. My name is Jason. I'll be your host on this CFL talk show, Hussey's Huddle. In this video, we recap Week 6 of the 2022 CFL season. But really quickly before we get started, if you want to support the channel, as always, be sure to hit like and subscribe. And with that said, let's get started. So we're coming off a very exciting week this week in the CFL with all 4 games really coming down to the wire. And I actually went 0-4 on my predictions, so I kind of took one on the chin this week, but, that's really what the CFL is all about. It's an unpredictable league. It's really fun to watch, and we really saw that on full display this week. So, starting off with the first game, which was Edmonton and Montreal, with Edmonton coming back to win this game 32-31 in the fourth quarter. And starting on the Montreal side of things, they dropped to 1-4 on the season, and they easily could be 3-2 or 4-1 after these first 5 games, but they have shot themselves in the foot again and again. A couple of teams really doing that a lot this year. And the first thing that steps out to you is the penalties for the Alouettes. 193 yards, they said on the broadcast, that this team took in penalties. This game against Edmonton, there were several pass interference calls. I believe it was Wesley Sutton, the guy that got flagged like 4 times for pass interference, but there are other problems as well. So honestly, I think that is just the one thing that's holding the Alouettes back right now. I don't think they're a bad football team at all. They're having untimely turnovers. Trevor Harris had a really bad turnover in the fourth quarter of this one, where I really don't think he needed to go deep in that situation. I think it was a 2nd and long, decided to go deep, and Ed Gainey made a hell of an interception. Trevor Harris probably should have took a check down in that situation and try to get the yards, because all they really needed was a field goal to make this a 2-possession game again, and I don't think Edmonton would have came back from that. Cannot be turning the ball over in those situations. But again, I think it was the penalties that really sunk them in this game, and just a very big missed opportunity. The first game under Danny Machocha here as head coach, you get off to a big, huge lead. Everything's going great. Great way to step out on the right foot, but you just fall apart in the second half against arguably the worst team in the league, playing their 4th-string quarterback. So, very disappointing game here for the Alouettes. And then on the Edmonton side of things, they're still 2-4, but they have 2 wins, which you couldn't have predicted a couple of weeks ago for this team, where they got off to such a horrible start to the season. What you could say about their 2 wins so far is they've been very opportunistic. They've won the turnover battle in both of those games, and I think that has really been the catalyst for their 2 victories so far this season. Taylor Cornelius, I thought, looked really good, especially on that final drive of the game. I thought that in the fourth quarter, when they really needed him to play well, he used his legs a little bit, which I don't think many people gave him credit for, is a little bit sneaky athleticism that he possesses, and he made some incredible plays against this Alouettes defense that really killed them. Kenny Lawler really proving that he is a legit bona fide #1 target in this league, being the focal point of this offense. And they got other guys that are stepping up as well that you love to see. And honestly, I think that, I don't see them getting back in the playoff race, but this is such a great sign going forward as we build this franchise back up again. Hopefully they can get a win at home soon, because they won this game, but it was on the road, so they still have not won a home game in 1,000+ days now. So hopefully they get that done. I don't think it's coming this week when they play Winnipeg, but we'll see what happens. Happy for the Elks that they got their 2nd win of the season. And then Friday Night Football between the Winnipeg Blue Bombers and the Calgary Stampeders, where Winnipeg won a tight battle 26-19. And on the Calgary side of things, I think the mistakes were just so clear and why they lost this game. They were not far off to winning this game. Honestly, they had the game-winning touchdown, or game-tying touchdown right there. And Kamar Jordan, wide receiver, just had, an all-time awful game. I love that guy. He's one of the best receivers in the league. He just had a really, really off night. And there was other receivers that dropped passes as well for Calgary. Honestly, I just don't think they were very far off, and there's not too much to be upset with for this game. There's just these little crucial errors that really cost them the game. They'll get another shot at Winnipeg in a couple of weeks. I thought a really good sign this week for them was that Reggie Bagleton was able to finally get going and be a focal point of the offense, and he too also dropped the touchdown pass. One guy that I think is kind of absolved the blame for this game is Bo Levi Mitchell, to be honest with you. When you look at the stat line, maybe the most misleading stat line you'll ever see, 12 of 28, and I forget what the yardage and the touchdown interception was, but He had several dropped passes that were just completely on the money from him. I thought he actually had a very good day. Both quarterbacks playing extremely well in this one. We'll talk about Zach Collaros more in a minute, but I thought that Calgary did enough to potentially win the game, and just came down to that unfortunate play right there at the end. Just two great football teams going at it. And then on the Winnipeg side of things, they improved to 6-0 for the first time since, I believe it was 1960. Incredible accomplishment. This is just truly historic stuff we're seeing from this team. Zach Collaros, I believe he's 23-2 as a Winnipeg Blue Bomber starter, which is just completely unspeakable. He's just playing out of this world, and this team is just so comfortable with who they are, and just the well-rounded ability. They trust each other to step up in these given situations, no matter who it is. You had a guy like Carlton Agudosi, who's a 6'6" receiver, huge guy, showed a lot of athleticism in this game, and was just kind of came out of nowhere and dominated this game. He had a couple of touchdown passes, one that he just kind of reached over Trey Roberson, who's not a small corner, to get a touchdown. And if he puts it all together, I think from a mechanic standpoint and just refining his abilities as a receiver, he's going to be a stud in this league, because there's certain things you can't teach, and one of them is size. And I think this is something that maybe was missing from the Winnipeg receiving core, was that big red zone threat. But I think that Agudosi arguably gives them that if he's able to put it all together, and we saw that in this game. And then I think what you could say about this team as well is that this defense is just so smart in how they bend but don't break. I think that was a key moment in this game, was the red zone defense. The couple of times Calgary got inside the 5-yard line, just was not able to punch it in. Winnipeg's just been so good at that over the last couple of years, and honestly, I think that's been a huge factor in their ability to win games, hold teams to field goals, or force them to turnovers on downs, and I think that was a key factor in them winning this game. They're just an unbelievable team, 6-0. I can't believe I picked against them 2 weeks in a row. You can rest assured that it's not going to happen next week, but just incredible stuff from the Winnipeg Blue Bombers as they improved to 6-0 on this 2022 CFL season. And then the third game of the week between the Saskatchewan Roughriders and the Toronto Argonauts in Touchdown Atlantic from Wolfville, Nova Scotia, with the Toronto Argonauts winning the game 30-24 after a pick six by the Argos in the closing minutes there. And I think from Saskatchewan's point of view, I'm not really too concerned about the actual result of this game. I know they've lost 2 games, and they're the only team to lose to the East this year. But ultimately, I think they're still a very solid team. They're one of the top 3 or 4 teams in the league. But I think the big thing that you have to be concerned about at this point is the health of Cody Fajardo. This guy, I don't think people give him credit enough, because I think he is the toughest quarterback in the CFL, and he's shown that the last few years. He is a guy that, a lot of quarterback injuries the last few years, but he has not missed a start, and I think that is incredibly impressive. I think he's due to miss a start now, because he's just getting banged up week after week this year. I think they need to rest him for a week or 2, because that knee is just, it's scary to see him take these hits. Obviously, the Sean Oakman hit in this game, I don't think that was a dirty play. I just think that was just, Fajardo trying to escape. But, he tries to do too much. He's not going to take himself out of the game. I think the Rough Riders have to be smart about this, protect their franchise quarterback, even if they have to sacrifice a game next week. I think in the rematch against Toronto, they play in Regina next week. But I just think the health of Cody Fajardo is so important for this team going forward. They have no chance of winning the Grey Cup if they don't have him healthy, and I think he is less than 100% right now, or far less than 100% right now, and they need to take care of him and save him from himself, really. And then you had this situation between Duke Williams and Shaq Richardson in the pregame warmups, when Duke Williams was caught on camera throwing Shaq Richardson's helmet at him, and Shaq Richardson has also gone on to accuse him of spitting on him twice during the game, and just really disgusting stuff if this is true. Obviously, the helmet thing, I don't know how Duke Williams was allowed to play in this game after what we saw on camera before the game even started, but, the Rough Riders the last couple weeks with the Garrett Marino thing and then this, it's unfortunate, because I don't think the last couple of years there's been problems with the Rough Riders in terms of staying buttoned up. Yeah, they've had, been a very penalized team, but I don't think they've done stuff that's necessarily over the line and, disrespectful to their opponents. And I mean, I'm not too sure what's going to happen with Duke Williams, if there's going to be a suspension, but if he's suspended, he is a very key player for them. Garrett Marino, people want to hear this right now with the controversy surrounding him, but I think his presence was missed in this game, along with Pete Roberson, who they lost to injury last week against the Alouettes. I think losing those two guys was really a big detriment to the pass rush for the Rough Riders in this one, and allowed Toronto to have a pretty good day. Obviously, what sealed it was the pick six by Wynton McManus, who's having a great year for the Argos. But I think that pass rush missing for the Rough Riders, which has been a driving force for them this season, missing those two guys in this game has been crucial, and I think they have to button up these discipline issues going forward. And then on the Toronto side of things, huge win here to really separate themselves at the top of that East Division, get that elusive second win for this East Division. And I think one thing you could say about the Argos in this game was that offensive line, which I had many questions about going into this game, really stepped up and gave McLeod Bethel-Thompson a chance to execute the offense. I thought that maybe they didn't have the greatest day, but I thought that the offensive line relatively kept them clean, and I think that was a huge factor in allowing them to stay in this game, put up enough points to the point that they could steal the game late in this one. I think that the Wynton McManus signing, as I said a few minutes ago, has been absolutely huge. And I wasn't, huge on this signing just because, I think Wynton McManus is a good player, and I thought he was a good player back in 2019 with the Stampeders, and which led him to being signed in the NFL by the New Orleans Saints. But I thought that he was still a downgrade from Dexter McCoyle, who they had there last year in that position. But I've been wrong about that. I think Wynton McManus has been arguably their best player so far on either side of the ball for this team. So honestly, I'm very interested to see how this defense continues to play going forward. Wynton McManus has been huge for this unit. Obviously the pick six, but so many other plays we've seen the first 4 games for the Argos that Wynton McManus has made. I think he's been their best player, like I said, on either side of the ball. And then I think my final point here is that McLeod Bethel-Thompson, we just need to see him play like this more often. Yes, he had the 1 interception, but generally speaking, he had a pretty efficient day. I think it was 70% completion percentage. The numbers usually look pretty good for McLeod Bethel-Thompson, but I think the eye test really passed this week as well. We just need to see this on a consistent basis for him. I think that has just been the Achilles heel of his entire career so far. He has pretty good games, and then he has awful games, and I'm really interested to see how he plays next week when they travel to Saskatchewan to play at Mosaic. And then our last game of the week between the Hamilton Tiger-Cats and the Ottawa Redblacks, with the Hamilton Tiger-Cats sneaking out a dramatic victory 25-23 on a missed Lewis Ward last-second field goal. And talking about it from the Ottawa perspective to start off here, they had an early lead in this game, which is disappointing to see that they weren't able to keep that momentum. I think they were up 10-1 after the first quarter. Hamilton had a very strong second quarter. They were able to regain the lead in the fourth quarter with the Dane Evans fumble, but ultimately, it was disappointing that Ottawa wasn't able to capitalize on what was a very good start to the game for them. Had a great opening drive where clearly they had a really good game plan going in, but Hamilton's defense kind of adjusted defensively. I thought that Jalen Acklin looked excellent in this game. He really wanted to take it to his old club. It looked like he was the best receiver on either side of the field today or yesterday. And then the offensive line, I think, on the other hand, really took a step back in this one. I didn't think Hamilton's pass rush was very impressive at all the first month of the season. I thought they were really pushed around by other teams, but I think Ottawa's offensive line struggled in this regard against the Hamilton pass rush, so that's a little concerning to see them take a step back, despite I think they got a couple of guys back from injury in this one, like Yacombre Williams at left tackle, so I thought that Ottawa offensive line did not play very well in this one. I think that was, a bad point from them. And then you have to talk about their coaching situation right now. Is Paul LaPolice on the hot seat? How long of a leash does he have left in Ottawa after having just a putrid record the first 2 seasons of his career here? And, I don't think that's entirely his fault. I think last year they just had a dearth of talent there. But this year, obviously overhauling the roster, had a really brutal schedule to begin the year, but they had opportunities to win some of these games. It was clear that this team has some talent, and we saw that today, even though Jeremiah Mazzoli wasn't in there. They are now 0-5 in the season, have a matchup against Montreal on Thursday night. I'm really interested to see. That is a very winnable game for them. I think that if they lose that game, we could see Paul Police being fired here by the Red Blacks, but it's going to be very interesting to see what happens and how hot Paul Police's seat is in Ottawa. And then from Hamilton's perspective, they got the job done, but it definitely was not pretty. There were several head-scratching coaching decisions, obviously switching the quarterbacks in and out, Matthew Schultz and Dane Evans. I thought that worked for a little bit, but I think they kind of overplayed their hand when they got close to the goal line and kept putting in Matthew Schultz. And then I think that decision not to go for a 2-point conversion, when they scored the go-ahead touchdown to go up 1 point, they go for just take the 1 point in that situation and go up 2, and being up 1 versus being up 2 in that situation, just not a very big difference. And being up 3 is just huge because you protect yourself against, they need to score a touchdown in order to beat you. And the situation with the clock, I think there was 18 seconds left on the clock. So, assuming they don't get a crazy kickoff, you're not going to be in a situation where they can punt it through the end zone to get a rouge to tie the game on 1 point. So, that was kind of the argument I was seeing from some people, was that they were trying to defend against losing via the rouge, or getting a tie game via the rouge. But I just didn't think that was in play at that given point in the game. And I think that was just a baffling decision by Orlando Steinauer not to go for 2 points in that situation. Kind of reminded me of the decision to take the knee on that last kickoff of the Grey Cup that made it a 3-point game and ultimately probably cost them the ability to win that game with just a field goal. So, I think it was not a perfect game for the Tiger Cats. They got the monkey off their back, and maybe this gets them going. I thought Dane Evans played relatively well in this one. Obviously, the very disappointing fumble that he had in the second half was extremely discouraging. It was like deja vu all over again from the Edmonton game. But overall, he was able to bounce back, unlike he did in the Edmonton game, got them in the end zone, and they were able to get their first win of the season, which is absolutely huge and was must needed for the Tiger Cats. They're going to have a tough test going up on Thursday against BC, but we'll see what happens. They, play the East most of the rest of the season, so it's going to be very interesting to see how they do the rest of the year after starting the season 1-4 here. But that is going to be the end of today's recap, ladies and gentlemen, and I want to thank each and every one of you for watching. Once again, my name is Jason. If you want to support the channel, as always, be sure to hit like and subscribe. I would really appreciate that. And let me know your thoughts on this week in the CFL. I went 0-4, like I said, on my predictions. Very unpredictable week, but I thought it was very entertaining. Be sure to let me know your thoughts down in the comment section. And with that said, hope everyone has a great day, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.